Today, I'm gonna tell you my thoughts on the beta kits of Cyrene, the most convoluted character in HSR to date, and will mostly stay as the most that way until EOS because I doubt they'll ever have something like this hyper-specific tailored to a specific group of characters. Maybe Diamond from IPC will have the effects for IPC characters, but that's about it. The racism displayed by Cyrene is truly unsurpassable, but she's also the only character with a unique motto. She has the assets of a lady model for all the gooners out there, including me, with the animations of a maiden model. Very interesting combination. Model glazing aside, let's dive into her kits. But before that, let me introduce you to the best platform for recharging Stellar Jades, LD Shop. On LD Shop, you can purchase Stellar Jades at an extremely cheap rates compared to in-game. Using LD Shop, you can save up to 33% or even more when recharging your Honkai Star Rail accounts. Today, I'll be buying this Jade pack that only costs $39.35 compared to the in-game price of $50. All you need to do is give LD Shop your account's UID and region, send your payment, and the Stellar Jades will be sent straight to your account in less than a minute. On top of that, if you recharge up to $80 in a month, you can get a supply pass for free straight from the website, which can be treated as another $5 discount on any purchase. Even if you use VPN method, you can never get a cheaper price than LD Shop with the free supply pass. There's no reason to not use this website. People who say there are risks to doing this are complete idiots that don't know how it works. I swear on my channel's integrity that you will not be banned or scammed. Don't forget to register using my link in the description for an extra 15% off coupon. I hope you would recharge on this website after registering using my link because that's the best way to support my channel as YouTube's ad revenue is genuinely horrendous. Anyways, as you might know, unless your main focus of the team is a Chrysos heir, Cyrene is not going to do that well. Not only does it take 3 quadrillion years to charge her ult, her buff itself is worse than RMC for non-Chrysos heir. In essence, her kit is basically fuck everything from 1.0 to the first half of 3.0 and everything after 3.72. Even if you have a Chrysos heir support like Cypher for Acheron or Hyacin for Blade, it's better to just RMC in most cases. But does that mean she's bad? Absolutely not. Everyone has at least one Chrysos heir based team by now unless you're dumb or something. There's a lot of choices to choose from, so there's no way you skip literally everything. And it's not like teams that aren't Chrysos heirs are suddenly unusable since all our endgames need multiple teams to complete. Now for the synergies of Chrysos heirs with this character, I'll start with the non-DPSs first. For Tribi, her effect is honestly really shit unless you're running her as DPS. Buffing her with Cyrene is a low priority and you only do it if you have leftover ults. Her buff lasts forever at least. As for Cypher, she's better because her buff actually gives amp, so it's not wasted to buff her. Ceredra's buff is good because it lowers military merits, but out of the 2 DPSs you can use her with, you're only buffing her when she's with Finan, which is another can of worms I'll dive into soon. Last support is Hyacin, and the only good thing about her is that the characters she synergizes with all have permanent buffs, which means you can just keep giving her buffs. Her buff itself with the energy regen and healing tally is so good that it might even be better to skip other characters' permanent buff to keep spamming her in some situations. As for DPSs, the worst synergy with Cyrene is definitely Finan. In fact, this is the rug pull for Finan mains that I have been predicting since the start. He baits you into pulling for his Eidolons to function, but his vertical investment is also shit. In this regard, he's the worst to invest in even if he does more damage than Mydei. The reason he's so bad with Cyrene is that the perpetual ult is actually a scam. If you run Cyrene with him, there's an actual threat to him dying in ult since his healing is significantly reduced. In Anomaly, you won't be able to run Sustainless in future iterations, which is his one redeeming quality over other characters. Remove his Sustainless and he's just dog shit. If he does die in ults, because it's a Cyrene team, it'll be exceedingly hard to get another ult back against enemies that aren't shilling him. Not to mention the fact that the ramp up is slower than other Chrysos Air teams. Even the multiplier Cyrene gives is not physical damage, meaning you won't be able to buff it with Finance Physical Orb. There's just too many anti-synergies for this matchup and I'm all for it. Cyrene dumping Finan is something I've been waiting for since the beginning. If you don't run him with Cyrene, he'll just fall behind compared to the other heirs that have access to Cyrene. At that point, what's the point of him being a Chrysos heir? It's literally just a name, not in function. This character has no identity, which lines up with the lore since the Deliverer is now the Trailblazer. Now, the other DPSs are generally pretty equal in terms of how synergistic they are. First up, we have Hyslins. It might be meta to drop Black Swan from her team in place of Cyrene and RMC. She's able to 5-cost Zero Cycle the new iteration of Nicodor, who has 18 million HP, which is kinda ridiculous since she isn't being showed that much. Triple DOT might not even be the meta for DOT teams anymore. On the same line of thoughts, Aglia also has a meta revamp. At E1+, it should be better to drop Sunday in place of another Chrysos heir like Tribi for Aglia. Aglia's clears usually have multiple supports performing about the same for her, despite Sunday being her dedicated support. This is because she's way too fast for advancers to synergize with efficiently, making characters with permanent buffs like Tribi an equally good option before Cyrene looking at her low-cost Zero Cycles. Cyrene's amp for her is permanent as long as she doesn't exit her ult, which shouldn't be that hard to manage at E1. Aglia's ceiling has always been limited by how slow advancers are. Cyrene should be able to increase her ceiling to new heights. Now for Anaxa, he's extremely greedy for Cyrene's buff, to the point where you can't even buff Ceridra in the same team as him, since it would legitimately be worse than just buffing him constantly. But with Cyrene, he's able to perform a ridiculous feat of zero cycling, the new Cancer Memo Sprite boss that has 50% resistance with no limited idolins. This is something that has never been done before Cyrene's release because of how broken idolins are these days. No limited idolins is legitimately a hard restriction now, so this feat is kind of crazy. Regarding Mydei, his synergy is more of a mixed bag. There's in fact a bug with him where if you use Cyrene with him and Ceridra, you can actually get soft locked and unable to play the game, meaning you need to reset the battle. Even with this bug, his actual synergy with her after dumping Ceridra is pretty high still. Even though he only gets an extra God layer, it's more than what his current supports offer, so the lowest cost zero cycles with him next patch just ends up being with Cyrene anyways. As for main DPS Evernights, I was hoping for her to be on par with Casterus with Cyrene, but honestly that's no longer an option. I always knew it was tough, but now it might be impossible unless V3 changes everything. Cyrene's buff for her is decent, giving half the increase of her E2, which I need to mention because her E2 is said to almost double her output by itself. It's still nowhere near enough to match casters though. I will still invest into E2 Evernight DPS with Cyrene because I can't use casters without any of her healing options. My restrictions prevent me from using Gallagher and Hyacinth after all. With E2 Evernight and Cyrene, I should still be able to zero cycle Anomaly checkmate next patch, which is significantly better than what I'm doing right now. So honestly, all things considered, I'm satisfied with the results. The last DPS and character I'll discuss is the one and only strongest DPS, Casterus. I don't know why I glazed her so much despite not even being able to use her. Maybe it's because I know subconsciously she's too broken, or the 1 week I spent on a singular clear for her, But anyways, the Mono Remembrance team I mentioned and predicted a while back is in fact the strongest in the game now. Casterus, Cyrene, Evernight, and Hyacinth, the four heavenly queens of Honkai show rail. People may say they're not all that at low cost, but in 3.6 onwards, low cost might not be the way to judge DPS anymore because of the new anomaly game mode. After all, we have a good way to test out DPS ceilings, and the ceiling of this specific team is ridiculously OP. It's truly mind-boggling. To put in perspective why they are the best, let's first talk about how tanky the polite mode of checkmates in Anomaly is. Just the first wave alone is over 30 million HP, with a 173 million HP boss. And guess how long this team took to clear it at max investment? 2 cycle? 0 cycle? 150 AV like in MOC? No, none, 9. They managed to clear it in 0 action value. I couldn't even fathom a reality of this regular checkmate being cleared in 0 AV before this team, but now even the plates version of it can be cleared in 0 AV. Can you fathom how ridiculous this is? To put in perspective, even if you argue shill and say they're usually half as effective as this, that's still over 100 million damage dealt in 0 AV. That beats my Saber MOC 0 AV 5 times over, and Saber's whole thing is front-loading, unlike this team, which is consistent damage. It literally means if you give them a full 0 cycle to work with, they can do it over the integer limits for damage. How can you power creep this? It's impossible. This is the death of power creep. Because even if you give the boss integer limit HP, which is a bit over 2 billion, they'll still be 0 cycled by this team. You might be saying max investment is too unrealistic, but is it really? For this level of damage, is that really unrealistic to aim for? Even at 13 costs, casters can already 0 cycle plate mode. Let's say the goal is E6S1 each character. That's only around 32 costs if you're starting from 0, which you aren't if you watch my poll opinion videos. I only started spending after 2.6. Before that, my account was F2P, and even I have over 70 or 80 cost total. It might legit be the meta to hunker down for a year for low spenders and get this team to max investment. But think about it, how in the fuck are they going to power creep something that can 0 cycle integer limits? They think they can rug pull something this ridiculous? It's physically impossible. HP inflation is nullified forever. Even the devs can't break their own code limitations. And a gacha game reaching integer limits of HP for enemies in just under 3 years, that doesn't sound realistic either. I genuinely think they made a severe lapse in judgment calculating the potential of this team, so either Cyrene gets a nerf or power creep doesn't matter anymore. This just doesn't make sense, honestly. Some people at Hoyoverse just really subscribe Mono Remembrance for life. Last thing I want to talk about is Cyrene as a DPS. Honestly, just don't. It's not worth it. Maybe you can work something out at E1 because of the personal damage buff it provides, but it'll still need up to E2 before feeling smooth. Cyrene as a DPS may be workable, but I would never recommend anyone go down this path, honestly. That's all for today, and I'll see you in the next one.